Good morning, everybody. It's Motivational Monday, and I'm live to you in 3 places today. So we're at Manager Critic Community Group. So those of you that are on Facebook, please come and join us in the Manager Critic Group. That's your place where you can engage, ask questions, share what's going on with that critic in your head where you're saying things to yourself. I'm also live here on YouTube. I'd love to have your comments. If you're seeing this video, please subscribe, keep in touch, because not only do we have Motivational Mondays coming out at 9 o'clock most Mondays, but we also have the Listening Detective TV. And last season was all about introverts, and some great articles there about some of the assumptions and criticism we make of introverts. This season, just starting, going out live at 3 o'clock tomorrow, we will have, not live, but it's going out at 3 o'clock tomorrow on YouTube, is the Confidence series, which is starting. I'm very excited about the guests we've got coming onto Listening Detective TV there. And if you're here on Step by Step Listening page, please comment, like, share, because one of the things that we're talking about today is how to feel, look and feel confident. One of the things that I spend a lot of my time with my clients do is either getting clarity of what they want or the confidence to make it happen. And the one that always comes in is if you, other people think you're confident, what can happen is you get into this bit of bind because other people think you're confident, so they think you don't need any help. And then because you like them thinking you're confident and you're strong, we can get into this bind where we don't want to ask for help because we don't want to lose that perception or that persona that we've now we're portraying of ourselves. And what can happen, and I've seen it over time and time again, is that we end up with these really confident people who lose sight of their own confidence, their own brilliance, how great and awesome they are. And it's because what is happening on the outside isn't what they're thinking and feeling on the inside. So I will say to you, do watch out for the YouTube interview coming out on Tuesday, because that is about confidence is not a feeling. A great interview with Natalie King, who does confidence with public speaking. And one of the things to remember about is that if you're, first of all, the thing I've put is confidence for you is like what, is the question that I've asked you to have a think about. And I'm just going to check what else I've put in there. Let's see what I've put there. So confidence for you is like what's happening inside, and what would we see and hear outside. And the reason I'm saying that is because often when we're trying to build confidence, we can't always see and hear ourselves. So we may not feel very confident. We might be fluttering stomachs, we might be feeling a bit sick or a bit sort of anxious, and so we don't feel very confident. But that doesn't mean that we're not confident. And it definitely isn't always the case that other people don't see or hear us as confident. So one of the things is, first of all, get really clear for you. What is your definition? This is where clarity comes in. What does confidence mean to you? What would you see and hear outside if somebody else was being confident? And just notice whether or not that is what you're showing up as, that's how you're behaving. And secondly, what would be happening inside? And one of the things that the great interview with Natalie was talking about is that people assume that maybe confidence means that you never feel anxious, you never feel uncomfortable. So I am an incredibly confident person, and I'm really capable of doing things. However, that doesn't mean that when things are unfamiliar or they're new to me, that I don't feel uncomfortable. Good morning, whoever's just joined me live, please say hello so I know I'm not on my own. It'd be great to hear from you. So one of the things I talk about, and I do it in day one on the Make It Happen program we've just been talking about today, is about the mammalian brain. There is a part of the brain that the brain is always a pattern spotting mechanism. So confidence for me, in my model of the world, this is my experience. I have a 10-step process 10 components that when these things are in play, that's when I can be at my most confident. And the first one is that I'm chatting with purpose. I know why I'm chatting, and so sometimes I'm chatting because I'm completely overwhelmed and I'm really frustrated and I've got loads in my mind and I really want to talk fast, and actually the only reason I'm doing it is just to get it out of my system. I don't need it to be heard, I don't need it to be understood, I don't want anyone to fix it, I don't need people to make sense of it. So when I'm chatting like that, blah, 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 I don't need anything from the other person other than just simply hold the space and be my friend and listen, on my partner, just to be there so I don't feel on my own. And so therefore the feedback that I'm going to engage with is normally just an expression of my emotional state at that time. But if I were to chat like that to somebody who doesn't know that my purpose for chatting is just to get rid of this frustration because what I wanted to do didn't work, then sometimes the feedback people can give me, and I have had before, is they will say things like, Cheryl, you're talking too fast, you're waffling, or get to the point, or have you tried this, or have you done that? And then what happens is that you get into this point where you're being yourself, and then the feedback you get kind of leaves you feeling like maybe it's not okay to be yourself, and that's when confidence can actually drop. And what I know is my confidence is a process that I go through. So I'm confident when I can chat with the purpose of whatever kind of listening I need. I do it. Sometimes I want to vent. Sometimes I'm talking because I want the other person to hear me. Sometimes I want the other person to do something. I want to delegate it. Sometimes I want the other person to give me feedback and tell me what they're noticing or what's coming up for them as I'm talking, just so I can get some other perspectives. Sometimes I want questions to slow my thinking down and really think about it. But often what can happen when we lose confidence is that we start talking before we know our purpose for talking, and then we get feedback which can then often either from our own system or from people around us, and we lose confidence. So the second thing that I do about my confidence model is have a real think about, what do you actually want to have happen? Have clarity of what you want. If you don't know what you want from your day, from your week, from your year, from your month, then there's a good chance that you're going to be going through life and you're going to get feedback. But if you don't know what you want, you've got nothing to calibrate it against. And so all you can do is calibrate against what everybody else is doing. Whereas if, let's say somebody says, I want to make £1 million this year and I want to have 500 staff and I want to do whatever that might be. If what you want to have happen is I have a sole business that earns you enough money to pay the bills and a little bit extra to save up towards a pension, then you won't be measuring yourself or taking feedback from people who have a different outcome, who want to achieve something different. You might take little bits from it that will help you towards what you do, but if you don't have clarity of what you want, then you won't be able to sort of choose what feedback and what information you listen to and which ones you don't. You also won't know who you want to chat to and why you want to chat to people. The second thing is about your needs man. I want to really sort of labour this a bit, is thinking about, what do you actually need in 2021 for you to actually work, learn and live at your best. Given that some of us can't have what we really want, and we can't travel, we can't visit people, we can't be with the people we want. Given that you can't have it, if you were working, learning, living at your best, that would be like what? And how do you need to be, and what kind of resource or support might you need? So thinking about your needs and setting yourself up for success. One of the models we use at Step-by-Step Listening is clean setup. If it was just the way you'd like it to be, how do you need to be for that to happen? And what kind of resource or support might you need? Because if you're chatting and you don't know what you need to work, learn and live at your best, and you get feedback that basically infers that what you're doing is not okay, you can lose confidence because you don't have the clarity and an awareness of what works for you, that you start to assume that because that's what other people are doing, that you should be doing it. And it's one of the things we talked about in the season about introverts on the Listening Detective TV last time in season 2, is often people assume that an introvert, because they're quiet and they don't speak up, people assume that they are shy or they lack confidence. They often interpret that behaviour as being lacking in confidence, whereas actually they're very confident and they don't need to speak for the sake of speaking, and they'll only speak if what they've got to do to say is going to add value or is different from what's already been said before. Likewise, people who are external processors or extroverts, so often we will talk and people think because we're talking we're confident, but sometimes when we're talking, we're not talking because we have confidence, we're talking to gain confidence. And so there's all these assumptions that are made about how people learn, how people process, how they work. The way you get confident and the way that you feel confident and you can engage with feedback more effectively is by getting to know yourself better. So thinking about the year ahead, if you want to look good and you want to look confident and feel confident, you have to have an awareness of what people would be hearing and seeing. What would you hear and see from yourself when you're doing it? But you also need to know, what do you need to work, learn and live at your best? And I've really found out last year that what I really need is more introverted time. I need to do more physical exercise. I need to eat better. I need to have more time where it's absolutely okay to do crocheting, reading books, and just generally not watching telly. I've said it for a long time, but I absolutely know it this year without any shout of a doubt. I'm really confident that I'm going to do it because I want to be the best version of myself. So the spells the word confidence in case you haven't worked out. So chat with purpose is C, O for outcome, N for needs met. And then focus on your strengths. One of the things that often people don't do is they don't recognise that every single strength that you have will be something that frustrates somebody else. So the fact that I talk, and I am quite happy to talk, some people love it because they love listening to me, and other people, they just wish I'd shut up. So I'm going to get feedback of, oh, I just love it when you speak, you're so articulate, you give me such great information. But I'll equally get somebody who will go, like, oh, you never shut up, you do. And they've got their feedback they're going to give me. And so your confidence isn't about whether you being you is okay. It's not whether you're good enough, you're right, you're wrong. It's about, in this moment, the behaviour that you're displaying is having an impact on somebody. And sometimes it will work for the person and sometimes it won't. And somebody that it worked for yesterday, it may not work for today, because we're all going through change and lots of things are happening. And usually what happens is, let's say, for example, I'm quite happy to listen to my husband talk about his cycling statistics. I'm actually, and he knows it, I don't have very good memory recall for tracking numbers. I often I don't remember numbers, I transpose them. So when he's talking and he's quoting this number and that number, somebody was reading out something the other day and it was all on numbers. My brain can't really compartmentalize it, so it's much harder for me to listen to that. Now, if I've had a day of listening to stuff where my brain is still trying to work out how it all works, and then he's talking about his cycling statistics, I cannot pay attention to that as well if I haven't had a break. And so the I in the confidence model is taking an interval. And so remember that you being you is absolutely great and gorgeous and wonderful, and you being you will annoy some people some of the time. But it's not that the whole of you is a problem or needs fixing. It's just that how you're behaving in that moment isn't working for that person in that moment. And the next moment it might be okay. And we're all in this transient changing model all of the time. And so the D in the confidence process is to think about developing solutions with your strengths in mind and with the impact it's having on other people. And the question we ask all the time at Step by Step Listening is, what would you like to have happen? Now, bearing that in mind, and this video is only meant to be 15 minutes, the E in the confidence process is embed learning. One of the number one reasons why we lose confidence is we will know what we want, we'll know what works for us, we'll also know our strengths, we'll know what we want as a solution, considering that, what we want and what works for us and it's not working for somebody else. When we're coming up with a solution that's going to work for both of us, we'll know all that. But what will happen sometimes is that our brain will run on autopilot, because even though you now want to do a new behavior, so in my case, maybe slowing down, talking more clearly, maybe not talking first in the group, allowing other people to talk first. So if I might change my behavior to suit the people around me, but what can happen when you're trying to do a change, a new behavior, is even though you know logically that you want to eat less, exercise more, talk less, whatever it is you're trying to change, what can happen is your brain still runs on autopilot, even though you know that's not what you want to do. So I call the E the embedding the process, embedding the learning. And so that's why people say write your goals down, have them visual, have them so you can remind you. It's just simply because the brain needs reminding that this is the new way we're going to behave. This is what we're going to put our attention on. And you can do that by repeating it out loud, saying it out loud. You can do it by writing. You can also do it by asking someone to repeat it back to you. And when you get those you're saying it, you're seeing it, and you're hearing it from somebody else, you could record it, listen back to it. But do something. So I don't think there's anything up there that's going to be embarrassing. But this is my board at the moment. So I've got my fit up there, my Time Monsters Fun Fit. I've also got this body clock thing on my living. They're all up there at the moment, at the beginning of the year, to remind myself this is where our attention is this year. And my real focus from personally is about financial fitness and physical fitness this year. I've spent quite a bit of time on emotional and mental well-being, so that's a sort of a maintenance plan. But financially fit and physically fit, there are going to be new behaviours I need to put into place for that. Some of them are already there, but I need to build on them. And the new behaviours I've got to build in. I need to have things up there that will help me embed that learning, that will help remind my system that that's what I want to do. Then on the N in the confidence process is noticing and then celebrating change. One of the ways you can help embed the process is, rather than catching yourself getting it wrong and criticise yourself and other people saying, oh, but you said you weren't going to eat cake, or you said you were going to do more sales this week, or whatever it is you're working towards, is notice and celebrate change when progress is being made. So actually taking some time out. So whenever I get a sale at the moment, I'll go into a celebration dance in the kitchen, like, yay! Because the reason for it is that your body is listening and your mind is listening to all of this information around you. It's collecting the data and it's noticing when things don't work, because it's hardwired to do that to protect you. And so what can happen is that your attention can go on what's not working, which then knocks confidence. Whereas if you train yourself to notice, I did one more press up today, or I remember to drink my water without having a reminder today, and you celebrate that little change, and you do some physical movement to actually embed that acknowledgement, that progress, that can help with this memory bit, where you actually start teaching your own system. You start giving yourself feedback that says, actually, this is working. The C then comes down to about creating a plan. One of the major reasons I see people losing confidence over time is because they might make a decision that works for today, but because things change, it doesn't work for tomorrow, or it wasn't aligned with a 30-day, 90-day, 1-year plan. But when we are lacking confidence, what can often happen is our brain state goes into like the flight, or freeze. The limbic system part of our brain is in action because we're lacking confidence. We feel like we're not very safe. We don't think things are going to go well. And sadly, what happens is the blood and the oxygen goes from the neocortex part of the brain where we do our thinking and our clarity and problem solving, and it goes out to the flight, or freeze. It goes to our extremities so that we can literally fight, run away, freeze. And then what happens is when we make decisions, when we're lacking confidence, they tend to be quite narrow in time frame. They tend to be survival strategies, just get you out of this fix, get you out of this mess. But of course, that isn't always going to work long term. So when you know what you need to work, learn and live at your best, you'll also know what you need to settle your brain. So even if everything around you is falling apart, you can still get the support you need, get the clarity you need, get the confidence, because you can then create a plan that's going to get you out of this pickle now, but it's also going to set you up for success over longer term. Otherwise, what happens is you just keep getting short-term solutions, which then makes you feel like you're on a hamster wheel, which makes you feel like you're on a treadmill all the time, and then there's no way out of it. Whereas if you can hit the pause button, and this is why working with a coach or working with somebody like myself, it means you're not doing it on your own. The fact that you are not on your own, you lose that isolated feeling. It means that you start to feel supported. Your system can start to settle and feel less scared, that it can think with more clarity and more confidence. And then you can create the plan. And then the E is about engaging with evidence-based feedback. And what I find happens is people talk and they engage with feedback. They don't know what they wanted. They don't know what they needed to work and learn at their best. They don't know what their strengths are. They don't know what the solution is when what they're doing doesn't work for other people. They haven't embedded the learning. They're not noticing and celebrating change. They don't have a plan, and yet they're listening to feedback and changing their decisions. And therefore, when you change your decisions based on just random feedback that is often just being projected at you because of how the other person's feeling, that can often mean that you stop doing what you love and you lose confidence in yourself and your decision-making process. So I hope that's been useful for you today. We're now coming up to 20 minutes, so I'm going to call it a day. I haven't got any comments that I can see right now. So if you want to look confident and feel confident, think about the question, confidence views like what? what's happening inside and what would you hear and see outside. And then I hope that my 10 steps to confidence will help you this year to feel more confident. Of course, as always, if you do need to have that companion, that listening detective that will get the magnifying glass out and remember just how awesome you are and feed that back to you so that you've got absolute clarity and confidence for the year ahead, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Have an amazing week and an amazing year. See you soon.